ghost of our past is chasing, trying to stop us. The sound of our souls connected is nothing but one love. So don't give up tonight. Just keep living your life. Afraid of being not alone. Rise like the sun and fall in the ocean. Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win, 'cause we're only human. The ghost of our past is chasing, trying to stop us. The sound of our souls connected is nothing but one love. So don't give up tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sim Racing Alliance. We are here with Season 10 and Round 1. Boogity, let's go racing as the green flag jumps.
Looking maybe even full wide.
They're fanning out, there's a bit of contact. He's got the outside.
Side, that's a great move.
He's got plenty of speed in there, and he's being held up.
He's gonna have a better run. Yeah, it's gonna stick it on the outside.
Well, that's a late move. 296 Ferrari, though, finds a space.
He didn't have it.
We're on the way for SRA.
That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sim Racing Alliance GT3 Team Series. We are live for Week 7 of the season from the Circuit of the Americas in sunny Texas. It's actually not sunny at all today. This is going to be a wet race from Texas. Should be awesome action, slipping and sliding around the track. My name is Philip Mueller. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me on the mic once again is my co-commentator, Donovan Colton. Donovan, did you bring your umbrella this week?
Well, I'll be nice and dried, in my nice and cozy or in front of my PC. But
up here in the booth.
yeah, exactly, up here in the booth. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see these D5 drivers though stomping puddles out there. It should be a good time.
Fantastic. So there is quite a bit for us to cover before this qualifying session starts. Let's jump right into it with the individual points standing. So after the first 6 rounds, you see our championship leader. He's been there the entire time, Alexander Bermudez Garcia, with a 78-point lead over P2 Mike Heisner. Now, technically, mathematically, everybody down to 7th place there, Shane Transu, is still in the fight, but really I'm thinking Heisner and May and potentially Swift are the only ones who stand a chance of taking down the dominant Alexander Bermudez Garcia. Silver, on the other hand, we've got, you see on your screen there, 5th place Kyle Miller, followed by Alan Leung, JP May, Eric Rotherham, Andrew Duong Bong Leo. These gentlemen are separated by only 65 points, and so with 2 races left to go, everything's still to play for these guys. Any of them could take it down, and we're going to have to keep a very close eye on how those guys fare in this race. Got some more individual standings here for the team championship. After last race, our TC8 racing team of Alexander Bermudez Garcia and Alejandro Quarin take over first place in the championship. Scuderia Atlantica and Sub-Zero Motorsports still in the hunt. Still got to keep an eye on how Mr. Sean Leitch, J.E. May, D.Vem Galindo, and Brett Swift are coming up on them and seeing what they could do. Heading to the track map here. As I said, we are in Texas. We are at COTA. The little GIF on your screen there showing you that it's rainy today. A beautiful track, a controversial track. Some love it, some hate it. But I don't know which camp you're in, Donovan. Are you a lover or a hater of COTA?
I will say before this week I was a hater. That's because most of my experience has been hot lapping, and track limits can be a massive issue here. They're very strict, much more strict than pretty much every other track in ACC. However, this track produces great racing, and it does produce hugely entertaining rain races. So I think that, it's funny, I'm so mixed, but I'd say I like it in this context.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost a perfect track. Some of the stuff in the 3rd sector, 14 going into turn 15, it's a little awkward. I'm not super huge fan, but sector 1, flowing through those S's, I've always loved this track. It's going to produce some great racing for us here today.
Yeah, I've heard some people describe up through 15 as great value Bahrain.
Fantastic. So our qualifying session just starting to get underway. Let's jump over to the scene here, taking a look at our drivers out on track. leaving slightly early. I'm used to them waiting until the 20-minute mark before they get underway, but that's okay. Here we are. Some interesting drama already, Donovan. I gotta say, our Coach Jeffrey's Academy pick for the silver division. I must have gotten this wrong when I wrote down my notes. There he is, Mr. Kyle Miller.
Yeah.
Jumping on board with him first, coming out of the pits and giving us a great look at that track. As I said, here we are, Sector 1, really flowy. I love these S's. This one here, a long double apex right-hander. How could anybody hate this track?
Yeah, see, when you were saying that, I was like, man, these S's, not my favorite S's. But again, you know, I think in the wet, you know, I like them. This whole track, I like driving a lot more in the wet. And like I said, you know, for me, this is a race track. It's great for racing. It's not as enjoyable for me personally as a hot lapping track.
Yeah, no, great point for racing. It's super wide, really good potential for guys to go side by side for a long amount of time without hitting too much in the way of, well, there's some pretty big sausage curbs on the inside and outside of some turns, but generally speaking, yeah, great track for racing as we come down this long back straight. This is, I believe, the second longest straight in the game behind Paul Ricard.
And if we're not counting Nordschleife.
Well, okay, yeah, I guess we got to put
be the longest.
Fair enough.
That one doesn't count. That one's like cheating. But,
no, yeah, that's a public toll road. That's not a racetrack.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think it is the second longest. You know, if we're not counting Nordschleife there. But yeah, and one of the things I like about racing on this track, especially in the wet, there's a lot of opportunity for different lines. Like when you're actually battling, you can experiment a little bit and find other lines. You know, we just came from Nordschleife where as we have a Porsche facing the wrong way. That's probably not the best line, but
no, it's
yeah,
just
we
qualifying. You got time to get back into it.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, we came from Nordschleife though, where you know there's not a lot of that track is so narrow and complex that there's not a lot of opportunity to experiment with your line when you're stuck behind and battling. Where this one, I feel like there's a little bit more freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. You can force a guy inside, force him offline, compromise his run through a turn, hit him on the exit. Lots of opportunity for tactics around here. So our first flying laps have started. We're on board with Daniel Martirana, not expecting too much in the way of pace right away. Jumping on board, I'm going to try to get a view of the track, so it's sometimes difficult to tell exactly what level of rain we're dealing with here. Fair bit of spray on the windshield, and
not really spray, I guess, but
and the visible dry line that you expect to look for on track. So, for example, if this were a light rain session, there would be a very clear, very visible dry line on track already. Whereas right now, so we're dealing with some pretty high rain levels. It'll be interesting to see how our drivers handle this.
Yeah, I guess the first indication would be the times maybe. You know, again, it's difficult to tell. You know, it's hard to prepare for, you know, where as a driver where you're going to stack up against your other fellow drivers, because it is, you know, there's so many different conditions, you know, that can be, you know, that can change how your pace would be. And yeah, I'm saying this is probably a pretty medium wet. As we come across for that first, it's a 2:19.6. That's actually not a bad time. I would say this is maybe on the light side of medium wet.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. You know, preparing for these wet races is always so hard because there's such a vast array of conditions that you do need to be prepared for. I mean, you need to have a couple different setups for. You got a light rain setup, a heavy rain setup, and sometimes the SRA gods smile on you and you'll have a dry race occasionally.
Yeah, that there is technically a chance of a dry race. And even now still, you know, with qualifying being this wet, we still have a chance of, you know, totally different conditions for the race. And yeah, it's difficult to say, but already Martirana there with a 8/10 gap there. And yeah, he was our winner for Nordschleife, and with as gets a little bit sideways there. I mean, it's easy to do in those S's there, and I guess that's slightly. I guess that's right at the end of the S's, huh? But
yeah, so that's the quick left-hander before that really slow right-hander. You got to get it slowed down.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of trail braking, and that McLaren not a fan of turning while braking.
Yeah, and that turn that you just went over there, that one can also, you know, I'm gonna be looking out there to see if that will catch anybody out.
As we see Dismukes struggling to get anything going in this session, returns to pit real quick. He will have time to exit the pit, get around track, and do one flying lap. So we'll see how he comes out as we're on. Alejandro Quarin, again, part of the team series leading PC8 racing team, hoping to put some good points on the board and support his teammate, the notorious ABG.
Yeah, and I as we see Quarin there taking a lot of that inside curb. I was noticing yesterday in the practice races, not a lot of cars could take a lot of that inside curb. You know, I'm in the Lexus, and the Lexus can. It just, I mean, it doesn't have any downforce, so it just jumps the thing, I feel like. But I notice a lot of cars struggle with the inside there, and so I've got my eye on that corner, because that's kind of a seems like a bit of a wild card.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Pretty big kind of pyramid sausage curb on the inside, and also personally, I've always had trouble with that turn on the exit with track limits.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that is my, I mean, in the in the wet, it's not so bad, because I'm not trying to squeeze out all the pace, because it gets so slippery on the outside there. But in the dry, definitely, I mean, that outside track limits, those are like, that's like my biggest nemesis in this track.
Yeah,
that's the one that always gets me.
It's kind of up and over a crest. It's getting light. Your tires are unloaded, and yeah, the potential to wash out there and use up one of your speed coupons is very high.
Yeah.
As we're on board with the man currently sitting now P3 behind his teammate Daniel Martirana. This is the other Jet Dragon Racing Ferrari, another potential promotion from D6, along with his teammate Martirana. Both of them, though, have been pipped by Kyle Miller in the Mustang with a 2:19.515. Looking on track, this should be all of their last laps that they're coming around to complete right now. Once the timer hits the 10-minute mark, their sessions will be over, not allowed to start any new laps, and we will get underway with our gold drivers.
Yeah, and I think we have slightly special rule. I think we have the spa rules. So 10:30 is when their time is done. So they went out at 20:30 and come in at or they have to cross the line before the 10:30 mark.
That's interesting. Okay, I did not know that. Very good.
Yeah, I think it's just because the start-finish line is so early on that back straight, where the pit line, exit line is right at the end there.
I'm
it's
seeing,
just
yes.
Yeah, if the gold drivers are coming out at the same time as the silver drivers can start their final lap, there's too high of a mix-up that a silver driver will be impeded by a gold driver.
Interesting. Okay, that's it. You can tell that I didn't do the spa race because I had no idea that special rule was in place.
Yeah. I think we did it for spa this season, and then now this one, or at least that's how we did it in the practice race. So I don't think that was over the line before 10:30 there for Kyle Miller. I could be wrong.
No, you're
sure.
right. It definitely hit 10:30 before he hit the line, so that'll be it for him. as I suppose now in 10 seconds here, we'll get our gold drivers heading out. We might have, if I look down the line, we've got Anthony Lombardo coming into the pits, boarding that final lap. Alejandro Guarin on a big improvement as he comes across the line, potentially going to be jumping up a fair few spots into 5th place. Excellent clutch performance from him. At a big, I think that was a 2.5 seconds over his previous best.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this is it's easy to find and lose a lot of time at this track in the wet. I mean, even in the dry, but especially in the wet.
Another big climber here, Stefan Pellerin, who is currently in 7th place, and if he keeps this together, he's going to have a big improvement, 1.2 seconds on the Delta, taking him up to 3rd overall so far. Very nice performance out of him. A couple more.
Yeah, that's
crossing the line. Gilchrist still on track. Soupy Rice crossed the line. That'll be him. 10th place overall. Gilchrist, I was just about to say that he was on an improvement, but that tricky 3rd sector turn 15 just catching him out, unfortunately. Fine. That's fine. Let me check my list. Who is my Coach Jeffrey's Academy pick for gold? We're jumping on board now. Mr. Mike Heisner in the ZDR Boys Porsche.
I think Heisner, I think he's been one of the ones who's been vocal about liking this track. So I'm curious to see. I think he's gonna run pretty well out here. And I saw Coach's pick for silver there is on provisional pole too. So looks like Coach is, definitely knowing what he's doing this week for sure. But
he's got some special insight. It's
yeah.
But he certainly knows how to pick him.
I'm not just saying that because I was his pick for D3 silver. But
good luck with that. It's not a curse; it's a blessing. I want that to be
exactly
on the record.
yeah. But no. But obviously, and it's pretty close there in that top for these silver drivers. So, and I wonder how much track evolution is going to be a thing here. I'm not quite seeing a dry line forming, but I wonder if we are going to see any of that. It doesn't really look like any dry lines forming.
And it's again, because we don't have the full information that the drivers have. Is the rain getting more severe as the session goes on? Is it getting less severe? I remember last season at Spa, the silver drivers went out and it was light rain, but 10 minutes later when the gold drivers went out, it had ticked over to medium rain, and so the top 7 positions after qualifying were all the silver drivers.
Yeah, it's not usually the case where the silver drivers have the better track. Usually, the gold drivers get the better track. But with rain, I mean, anything could happen.
Yeah. You see, we've got Heisner here on his first flying lap. Guess we have to give a special shout out to Mr. J.E. May, who is dealing with some IRL mechanical problems. In real life, if you're racing, you might expect to have, engine problems. Oh, my transmission blew out. This man is dealing with some motherboard replacement issues in his rig, and if I'm not mistaken, is racing on his gaming laptop currently.
Yep. He's on his laptop, and he's on controller too. And and so that's I'm assuming that's why he probably doesn't have his livery all set up, because it's not on his gaming laptop. But hey, I mean, if there's a will, there's a way, and so he's showing up. I mean, he's doing well in the standings right now.
Exactly.
So I'm sure he's P3 right now, so I'm sure he doesn't want to miss any opportunities here. And there's a lot of opportunity in wet races.
Yep, absolutely. This late in the season, every point will matter. So J.E. May making it work, whatever it takes, on the gaming laptop, coming around at the end of his first flying lap, keeping it nice and tidy off of those sausages. His first flying lap, a 2:19.530.
It looks like it was invalid though.
Oh, I was wondering why is he not popping up the leaderboard as his teammate though in the other Scuderia Atlantica Ferrari was on for a second provisional pole with a 219.372. Immediately though beaten to the punch by Mr. Divem Galindo in the Sub-Zero Motorsports Porsche, another team which is in very good position in the team championship. Got to keep an eye on them. But again, another improvement. The Latifi Racing School team, Tyler Martin in that Ferrari 296. He's been strong all season, already putting in a strong qualifying lap. Hopefully, his luck from past couple races will keep up, and I'm rooting for this guy personally.
Yeah. And look how close it is. It is pretty close between those top 3 drivers there who you know, are first valid, you know, or I guess we've had a few more valid down the line, but overall it's actually really quite close. You know, I'm always expecting in dry or wet races for the field to be a little bit more spread out than usual. This is another driver who's been very vocal about how good this track is. So I'm also curious to see, you know, how it goes for Mertz in here.
Absolutely, there was some good discussion going on in the Discord. Actually, everybody was kind of comparing, you know, setups, talking about levels of traction control, and yeah, like you said, Heisner and Mertzen were really speaking with some good confidence about, oh yeah, you know, I'm on this traction control and it feels really good, feeling really confident, and his first lap, a 222.7, but he's way up on that delta. Looking to him to put in a very quick time at the end of his second flying lap here.
Yeah, and this is one of the hardest parts about this track, especially in the wet, is there's so many different types of corners. You can't really get comfortable. You have to always be on top of it, especially if you're trying to avoid track limits. As J.E. May goes, wow, 5/10 faster into provisional pole there. That's great. So he's not letting his computer slow him down at all.
Absolutely not. He just took a lap to get it warmed up and instantly. But again, the track must be drying because these times are plummeting.
Yep,
immediately his teammate,
up.
Just a 10th faster, stealing provisional pole away from his teammate Divem Galindo with another improvement, also into the 218s, as we see the other strong Ferrari team, T-Mart, getting himself into the 218s with a 218.594. Yeah, these times are coming down. We're going to see, place your bets, are we going to see a 217 by the end of all this?
Yeah, I wonder. I feel like it's, you know, got to keep drying out for that. So it must not be, I mean, again, we don't know if the rain is going to be slowing, but there's still no dry line formed here. So I wonder, you know, it's so hard to tell how wet it is. But I wonder how wet it's feeling for these drivers behind the wheel.
Definitely a lot of confidence. Tell. So, just looking at position on track, 1 minute and 30 left in the session. We've got Tyler Martin here, who has invalidated this lap, is down on his delta. I'd be curious to see if he could get back around for another shot at this. Gonna be close. I'd like to see it though.
It is going to be close. I think he went deep into turn 1, and I was actually looking at that, and it's going to be really close for Tyler Martin there.
Fingers crossed for him as we're on board again with KC Rich, currently down in 7th place, 7/10 off pole, but on a bit of an improvement here. So coming across the line, he'll have this lap plus one more. See if he can promote himself up the leaderboard as we're coming into this final left-hander. Hard on the brakes, avoid that big pyramid on the inside and the sausages on the outside. Across the line, it'll be an improvement. 4th place for Mr. KC Rich in the MHR Spectre Aston Martin.
Awesome, yeah. And another thing, I don't think I'm seeing maybe a there's quite a few cars down there who have not gone into the, as we got a little bit of a slide. I've noticed with the Lexus there personally, that is such a common thing for me to just drift the entire thing, and I'm just like Tokyo drift the whole thing. But yeah, the Lexus is so interesting because sometimes if you don't want understeer, you got to just oversteer, and then you're doing both, and it's a very a slippy, slidey experience, but it's a good time. I mean, I love it. I just get immediately distracted with the Lexus, but
Sick four-wheel drift coming across the line. This will be Aaron Moreno's last lap. 2:24.4. Right behind him, we saw Brett Swift, who made a great improvement, promoting himself up to 8th place. Looking up the board, we had Alexander Bermudez Garcia cross the line with a 2:19.080. Currently sitting in 6th place. We'll see if he can hold on to that, as the driver who is currently behind him in 7th is on a... the commentator's curse strikes.
Yeah.
He was on a big improvement, but just couldn't get it slowed down. I believe that was at the hairpin, right before the long back straight. Jumping on board, we've got Sean Leitch here, not going to be improving on his current PB lap. Tyler Martin apparently did make it down,
did get a lap
in time. And so sitting now only 0.02 of a second off of pole, but well up on his delta. And if he can keep this up, he could be on for a provisional pole. Take a quick look. The driver just ahead of him on track is Mr. Merson in the Porsche, down in 13th place. Looking to make an improvement for him as well. Got Casey Rich, who crosses the line and promotes himself up into 3rd place.
Q3, yeah. Only 7 thousandths ahead of J.E. May there. Am I reading that right? We've got a spin.
Tyler Martin, I think he had gone off track previously and was just doing donuts there for a second.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
well, hey, I mean, that is a close top, there at, I mean, especially between those 4 drivers, that's real close.
All right, we have some wind conditions. Watch out
So
for
kicking it over to the sponsors reel. Mr. Donovan Colton, take it away.
Yeah, huge thank you to our SRA sponsors and title sponsors for supporting us here at SRA, as well as support from Documise, a modern business solution for product management. Go to documise.com to learn more today. And support from Retro Saga, a North American-based gaming company that provides accessories for your favorite classic systems, including Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and much more. Enhance your retro gaming experience today at retrosaga.ca. And a big thank you to our affiliates, Track Racer. Experience redefined gaming with Track Racer's high-quality sim rigs and accessory. Use code SR8, S-R-A-T-E, at checkout to support us. Armamentario, a toolbox for ACC that will enhance your chance to win. Enjoy a fully customizable and enhanced HUD to change the way you experience ACC. AT3D Sim Shop. Upgrade your sim racing experience with premium 3D printed accessories featuring precision crafted magnetic shifters, sleek cable management solutions, versatile stream deck mounts, and immersive dashboard displays. Their innovative designs enhance performance and styles. Elevate every lap with top tier quality and craftsmanship at at3d.net. Go Setups. Premium esports setups for everyone. Use our affiliate link on our Discord and take your drive to the next level. And from Castle and Cauldron, a home-based crafting business specializing in handmade Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and Fairy World collectibles, magic wands, potions, mini dioramas, wall decor, costume, cosplay, and much more. Castle and Cauldron is where crafting meets the magical. Visit facebook.com/Castle Cauldron.
Fantastically well done. As we are loading into our race server here, we've got a couple more seconds for the drivers to finish their
setups. Make sure, looks like we're, again, pretty similar conditions. It might be raining a little bit harder. That's just guessing, speculation. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But yeah, this is where it's really difficult with your setups because you got to get your pressures right because that makes such a massive difference. And you know, so you got to, like you said before, you know, kind of have multiple setups depending on the amount of rain that is going to be here. I mean, it looks pretty wet out there. I might say that it's a little bit more wet.
Yeah, potentially, and that's a good point. So we got to give another shout out. We always do our tie-in with the Coach Jeffrey's Academy. He has another service on his website called the Sweatshop that keeps track of all of the practice laps that every driver has done on each track for the practice sessions. It only counts the laps if you do them on official SRA servers, so some people like to be sneaky and do their practice offline. But of the drivers who have been practicing on the official SRA servers, we've got Shane Transu, Brett Swift, and Ramon Lorenzo with the most laps. Those are the guys who I would be looking to have at least the most experience with. Like you were saying, you need to know your pressures. For this amount of rain, for this track temperature, what do I need to get my race set up at in order to just not have them melt away in the first couple laps of the race?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Shane Transu, I'm curious because I believe he didn't qualify, so he's going to be, you know, having to make a bit of a recovery drive here, and
interesting point. So yeah, so we did have some unserved penalties. So like you said, Shane Transu did have a qualifying ban, so that's why he's sitting down in 27th, wasn't allowed to qualify. Same with D. Tibbs. See him here. He's starting in the pit lane because of a penalty. Stopa had a qualifying ban. Emil Garcia, actually, it was 2 races ago, I believe at Donington, got a little unlucky. If you recall, it was a promotion for E6. Immediately came in and got 2nd place at our race in Spa. And then had PC troubles. His computer completely froze up. He blew through a braking zone and took somebody out at Donington.
Yeah.
Which is why he's got this penalty here. So I've got in my notes here, Emil Garcia, not only is he someone to look out for on track because of his pace, he's just someone to look out for in general because if his computer freezes up again, you better keep an eye on your rearview mirror. He's coming for you.
Yeah, that's part of that you know, the sim racing equivalent of you know, a failure or something like that. It's like a brake failure or something. Yeah, not ideal for sure. But yeah, and I don't think he was at Nords to serve that penalty, which is
Correct.
why he's serving it here.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, as it was mentioned in the chat, you know, Emil from pits to P1, it's possible, and it if anything, it might be not. You don't want to start from the pits, but it's in the wet. You've got a really sharp turn 1 coming up that hill. There might be some chaos. You might be safer in the pits than you would on track.
Yeah, there are two races this season where you have a lot of opportunity from really far back. One was last week at Nordschleife. The other one is here. A lot could happen on this opening lap. It's a wet race, so you know it, and it's a wet race at a very tricky technical track.
Yep. So as we come now approaching the line, let's keep an eye on Sean Leitch. We want to make sure he doesn't repeat his mistake from last race and get that immediate drive through. He's looking pretty good in terms of his relation to the other drivers. Big drama though. I'm seeing our 4th place qualifier, J.E. May, is in the pits. Is he not able to click drive?
I wonder. And also, Sean Leitch super far back on his start there, and he goes deep there with Tyler Martin. Just wow, like basically starting on pole there, and yeah, immediately jumps. Has a pretty sizable gap there to P2 there, with the Divem Galindo from 5th to 2nd.
Yeah, we had some immediate drama off the break though. Going into turn 1, this is one of our silver drivers who is very high up in the standings, and we were looking for to have a good result. Andrew Duongbong Leo got a little tangled up. There was drama ahead of him, and
nowhere to go.
yeah, just a bit of a pile up there, and currently down in 26th place. A big bummer for Andrew Duongbong Leo.
Yeah, that turn one is tricky in the dry. I mean, in the wet, it's even more intense there.
So looking ahead now. So we've got Mr. T-Mart currently taking over that lead. He inherited it from Mr. Sean Leitch, who something has happened to Sean Leitch. He was P3 after the start, but he's plummeting down the leaderboard, showing in 21st position right now. We completely missed that one. No clue what happened to him. Looking ahead, we got Casey Rich, who had made the move work over Divem Galindo, who is showing on the left to be in P2, but you see him on track there just behind in P3, behind the MHR Spectre. Beautiful livery on that Aston Martin. Back one spot, we've got Alexander Bermudez Garcia. And whoa, we had some drama just behind.
Oh no, Kyle Miller there. I was just gonna say I mean, it was pre-commentator's curse, so I can't take responsibility for it. I was just gonna say he made up a few positions and had a good start, but yeah, it just.
So this is that
maybe
long
touching a
triple apex left-hander, and he just got a little loose, and the rear end came around immediately into the pit. So he'll repair that damage. This will probably, you would assume, fulfill his one mandatory pit stop for tires. So he'll be back in the race. He'll be able to make a pretty good comeback. It'll be interesting to see, though, by the end of the race, what kind of state will his tires be in.
Yeah, I think if with it being this wet, I think it's actually possible to make it through, for the rest of this drive here on these tires without too much. It depends on how much you keep it in check on your pressures. If you have everything, right. Oh wow!
What on earth happened there? That was just a quick clip of Ian Gilchrist, who was slow at the apex and got, it would appear to be torpedoed.
Yeah, fully inside one another there.
I'm not sure, potentially Stefan Pellerin into turn one. That was a brutal amount of contact.
That was, yeah. I mean, that was like going through the entire car. That was intense.
Where is Cube Master when you need him? That was a penetration.
Yeah, that was full on for sure. Oh my goodness.
Side by side down the back straight. Alan Leung on the inside. This is a fight against Scott Johnson in the number 91 Ferrari. Johnson keeping the position. Well done, kind of holding it deep on the brakes around the outside, fighting off the threat, and I believe that's an overtake on Mr. Alan Leung.
Overtake around the outside there. That's great. And yeah, it looked like the space was like perfect there. Just right amount of space there.
A little further back, we've got Tim Ducharme, currently sitting in 11th place, just behind one of our D6 promotions. That's Daniel Beckstead ahead in the Jet Dragon Racing Ferrari. The fight ahead continues. This is Divem Galindo, super close now, behind. This is Casey Rich in our other Aston Martin. Couldn't really get it side. Oh no! T-Mart!
Oh. T-Martin going deep probably into turn one there?
Yeah, he just went deep on the brakes, couldn't get it slowed down, and has now lost 2 positions to Casey Rich and Divem Galindo.
Oh yeah, that's tough. It's easy to do here for sure.
See, this is Alexander Bermudez Garcia down in 5th place in a bit of a battle. Driver ahead, that is Mr. Brett Swift in the other Sub-Zero Motorsports Porsche. So Divem Galindo and Brett Swift, I believe they are 3rd place in the team championship right now, but 2 and 4 on track looking to take some good points home this week.
Yeah, that's a great position to be in, especially when you're looking at some of the teammates of the other drivers. However, one thing I do want to note there, Shane Transu already in 11th place.
Taking a quick look on board, this is Mr. Daniel Beckstead. Had a little bit of drama. Nobody necessarily around him, just,
Yeah.
He looked like he was about to be running wide over that left-hander and a little too much steering lock and looped that rear end.
Yeah.
Sorry, who was that you had mentioned?
Shane Transu already in 11th place, because if I recall, I mean, he had the qualifying ban and was already pretty far back. We were saying that doesn't necessarily mean much. He's already into the top 10. He's in P10 right now, and so as Sean Leitch's race goes from bad to worse.
The opposite fortunes. The man who had started from the front and is going the opposite direction down the leaderboard, spinning again down to 27th place. I don't know if there was any initial drama, if there was contact, but not looking up for the Scuderia Atlantica team, who, by the way, this is his teammate Jay Ime, who we saw at the start had qualified 4th, potentially wasn't able to click drive. Maybe he had a problem with his computer, maybe it crashed in between qualifying and the race sessions. Down all the way at pretty far down on the track, 29th place, but it appears, you see on the board there on the left, he's got the little green rectangle next to his name, which means he has completed his mandatory pit stop and thus would be taking this set of tires all the way to the end, hoping to put some good laps in here. Nobody around him. He's kind of just hot lapping by himself.
Yeah, at this point, you just want to, drive clean. Don't push the tires too hard. Just have, nice, clean, consistent laps. That's what you want there. Oh, as multiple cars, I wonder if there was contact there.
Possible. So that was Beckstead and Roger Dismukes there, coming at the tail end of Sector 3. Just going to do a quick once over here to see if I can catch any glimpse of the action.
It was going into turn 19, so coming up right here.
I didn't hit the timing. We'll get there. So we see another yellow on track. This is Tim Ducharme, who has gone off Sector 1. This is in the S's, off the right side of the track and just parked.
Oh, in there.
Just hanging out. I wonder what the story is here.
Oh, he's moving again.
Looks like he's got it moving. Is present. I didn't see it. It doesn't appear to be any sort of damage. Maybe some IRL difficulties with his rig, unfortunately.
It might be. I saw in that cockpit view there was pressing the brake in and out a few times. So I don't know. That's a bit of speculation on my part, but I don't know if that's a hardware issue or not.
Some really close racing. These drivers coming into this is now into 14. We're on board with Cesar Pizzuto, right behind Mert Merson, and just ahead of Andrew Guangbang Liu, who we saw had some trouble earlier. He was involved in a first lap incident, so Duangbang Liu fighting his way back through traffic, maybe looking to get some promotions along the way. More drama ahead. This is Brett Charland in that beautiful Visual Sim Sports McLaren and having trouble getting it turned back around.
Props on him for keeping in it there, and just
out
touching
onto the
slippery stuff.
There's no grip out here, and we're gonna watch. Yep, that's what happens. Unfortunately for Mr. Brad Charland.
That was so close to a pretty big incident
that
there.
That was extremely close. So taking just a quick peek back up to the top of the leaderboard. We've got some breaks in between the action here. This is Divem Galindo still in P2, a second behind KC Rich, first place. They have pulled a sizable lead over Mr. Tyler Martin, third place, a full 7 seconds behind P1 and 2. These guys at the front are just walking away with this one.
Galindo there. I mean, he made me catch my breath for a second there with that little drift there. I was like, oh my goodness. It does look wet. Now the times, they're quite a bit, you know, lower. Obviously, we're on race fuel versus quali spec, but I think I think we're dealing with slighter wetter conditions than we were dealing with qualifying. Just looking at the car's composures, again, with race fuel, you know, that might be a little bit more or less, but I mean, I feel like we're dealing with, you know, slightly more wet conditions here.
Yeah, absolutely. So for reference, our current best lap of the race was just set by Mr. Casey Rich, as we see Soupy Rice making a move down the inside of Alejandro Juarin, taking that position away. Excellent move from him. So a 220.7 so far, fastest lap of the race. But from the front runners, we'll get back to that. We've got a chunk of drivers that are in the 220s and the 221s. Everybody else, though, 222s and slower. So you're right, very slow conditions out of this track. See, Casey Rich has just retaken. Whoa, as we see. Whoa, that was
quite the slide from Galindo, Divan Galindo there.
But an excellent save over the top of turn one.
His I mean, I'm seeing this Porsche slide all over the place, but he's catching him, and yeah, which is amazing. So yeah, full slide, but not losing a position, losing a little bit of ground there on Casey Rich. But at this point, I mean, I wonder how those tires are feeling about all the sliding. I mean, in general, those rear tires on the Porsche are not happy. Just it's driving.
Even
normally.
On the best of days, yeah. Over the top here. Yeah, we'll just say that he's got a relatively loose setup on that Porsche.
Yeah.
Looking back down the board, this is Scott Johnson putting a little bit of pressure on Alexander Bermudez Garcia ahead, a gap of only 0.3 of a second as they come into the final hairpin, getting them onto the long back straight. We'll see if he can get into the slipstream and get anything done there. A yellow flag in Sector 1 out of number 69. That was Mr. Rob Warren, who got it pointed back around the correct direction. Quick look at him as we see, wow, that BMW in a straight line. I don't know if he's just got a better drive back onto the straight, but Scott Johnson actually, it looked like he lost ground in the draft.
Yeah, it could have been just, you know, not being patient enough on throttle there at the hairpin. I noticed the Ferraris in my race, or in the practice race rather, yesterday. Ferraris did not seem to like the straight line speed. I don't know if the wet changes at all how the Ferraris. I mean, the Ferraris have never been super fast in a straight line, but the BMW is not bad. And yeah, I noticed that the Ferraris in general were not great in a straight line. However, I think overall they're pretty strong, but that's got to be a little bit frustrating for Scott Johnson here in the twisty bits, and you know, not being able to get by on the straight bits.
Yeah, you could say he did gain position through Sector 3.
Looks like he got a really good run at that last turn there. Although, again, it looks like he just loses out maybe a little bit on the top end.
We've got a pretty tight battle. We're jumping down here, jumping on board with Mr. Alex Stopa, who is down in 15th place. On track right behind our other TC8 car of Alejandro Juarin.
In the pit lane.
I take it back. He's got damage, and he's electing to pit to fix that bumper. That
was
looks
gonna
like
say,
it's in the wrong position there.
I think the hood is not in the right spot. It needs to be readjusted a bit.
Not sure what happened. I believe he was running up in 11th, down to 14th place now, but still on track, still moving. This is Tsu Swift, so another Ferrari, putting a fair bit of pressure through the slower stuff on the car ahead. He makes it look like he's going to go for the dive bomb into the hairpin, and so now we'll see kind of similar scenario. Is it possible for this apparently just very draggy in a straight line. Ferrari 296 to do anything against the Porsche ahead?
I saw it looked like he hung out a little bit on the as the Porsche was a little bit defensive maybe. But I saw there he hung out on the back. Little tap, just let him know. Hey, I'm here. I'm fighting you. This is kind of a familiar sight to in front a little bit as far as the team standings go, because Transu fighting Swift there while Martin is fighting Galindo, and so it's actually quite close between these two for the team championship for these two teams. It's a familiar sight, switching between the two.
Yeah, so as you said, DVM... Oh no, the commentator's curse strikes again. We were just about to say that DVM Galindo had dropped a fair bit back into the clutches of Tyler Martin, but that Porsche rear end, super unhappy. That was the second to last left-hander, now coming onto the main straight, dropping from second place. He's back on track and now in 6th place, just ahead of his teammate. You see there, Brett Swift, who is under pressure still from Shane Transu, going defensive into turn 1. See if these guys can get it slowed down.
A little bit over the sausage curb there.
A little bit, but keeps it
nowhere
together.
To go for Transu for that. You don't want to throw it down the inside for there, even if you've got the opportunity. It could be a little sketchy on that right-hander.
So the Scott Johnson and Alexander Bermudez Garcia battle continues. This is for 3rd and 4th place. As we look ahead, KC Rich still crushing it. He's still got the purple lap of the race. He's got a 10-second gap now to 2nd place, newly promoted Tyler Martin. We do have to look down the field though. Checking out Mr. J.E. May, who we saw had some trouble on the start. He has done his pit early, is the, I suppose, top position of all drivers on track who have pit, but his fastest lap of the race so far is a 2:20.135, which is overall the 2nd fastest lap of the race. So J.E. May, not sure what the trouble was at the start, but he is on the warpath trying to come back in this race.
Yeah, obviously he's got some serious pace, and I mean, still, there are a lot of cars haven't pit, so we're still even outside of typically what you'd want for a pit window. I mean, really, honestly, here the optimal would probably be pretty much halfway. I don't think the undercut will be quite in these conditions with it being this wet, unless it starts drying out. I don't know how strong the undercut will be, but it's really hard to say, if we don't know the actual conditions of, what it's like on track, but yeah, I mean, so I think we're still a couple minutes away from the pit window.
So this is Shane Transu here, making the move on Brett Swift. I gotta wonder though, that's at turn 15. Was that leaving the track and gaining an advantage on the exit there?
I wonder. He went out. I mean, you could maybe argue, the driver would argue, well, hey, I was pushed out, on the side there.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
I think there was enough space to keep it on the track there, but at the same time, sometimes you'd want to avoid damage, but I would be tempted if I was behind the wheel at that time to give up that position and try again.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. You never know what the SRA stewards are going to have to say about that, as we see DVM Galindo make an extremely brave move, diving past Mike Heisner in the S's there.
So clean there. I mean, that is not necessarily, that's a bit of the wet driving. I can't see that move happening very often in the dry, but yeah, really able to make that move work there in the wet here.
We do have a special mention in chat. So Emil Garcia, who, as we mentioned, did have a penalty from the incident in Donington, wasn't allowed to qualify. It looked like, I believe he started from the pit lane as well, but has made his way up to 16th on track. He's lapping not super fast. Maybe that Mustang not having the most grip in the wet, but definitely somebody to look out for. He's got a fair gap to the Lexus ahead of Mr. Rob Warren. Looking to make a little bit of an impact on this race. Fight still continues ahead. This is Scott Johnson showing in 4th place, actually, behind Alexander Bermudez Garcia. Very close battle. So we got ABG, Scott Johnson, and Divem Galindo all pretty close together. This is your battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th place on track.
I have a sneaky suspicion that Ford is difficult in these conditions. I haven't actually driven it myself, but I have a feeling it's a little hard to get power down out of the slower turns.
Yeah, hard to tell based on, pit strategy and all. So this is Mr. Kyle Miller, who had pretty good pace during qualifying. He did have that early incident. He's down in 21st place right now after his pit. Lap time wise, though, currently his best is a 2:22.392. So, again, that kind of lends credence to the idea that the Mustang, not the super happiest in the wet here at COTA.
Yeah, and I wonder if I see there's some front damage there on Kyle Miller's car, and I wonder if that was not repairing the damage and just, thinking, just to take the hit with the aerodynamic damage, or if that's new damage.
I was going to say, he had a pretty big front end hit. His hood was completely out of place. The hood looking good on Kyle Miller's car. That might be new damage.
Yeah.
Jumping back ahead, this is Scott Johnson now coming onto the long main straight. Scott now jumping on board with Divem Galindo, 0.7 seconds ahead, so he is technically within the draft, but not nearly close enough where you would expect him to make a move at the end of this straight.
I'd have to be a dive of the century from a different zip code there.
As opposed to Shane Transu, who is rather close up against. This is Mr. Mike Heisner you see ahead of him. Whoa, deep on the brakes.
Oh, and deep on the brakes.
Did well to avoid contact there, but he will lose position to...
It's better than causing an incident. He went to the outside there, which that's what you do. If you're going deep, you move to the outside. You do not go to the inside. The temptation is always to go into the inside, but...
Driver ahead of him you see that he lost the position to is...
Ooh, a blue flag.
Oh, not Soupy, right? But I'm a little confused as to the identity of that driver. I believe it's Soupy Rice's teammate.
Teammate?
I hear 886. He does yield the position, so it does good to get out of the way. So this battle between Transu and there you see Swift behind can continue. That was Mr. Ian Gilchrist in the Plan E Matrix Ferrari. I love the livery and I love the sportsmanship there. Doing a good job getting out of the way of battle ahead. Brett Swift makes a little look down the inside. Wasn't really going to go for the move, but just had to let Transu know he was there. As Transu again goes deep on the brakes.
Goes deep. Yeah, so, hey, it might be working a little bit. I always talk about how you want to get into the head of the driver ahead. And, yeah, that could be, Transu letting Brett Swift there get in his head just a little bit. And, yeah, but no, damage, just going deep on the brakes. So you can still fight back here.
So... looking ahead, this is our regularly scheduled check-in with Mr. KC Rich, our race leader, who has now pulled a 13.9, now 14-second gap on Mr. Tyler Martin, still running a very lonely second place. He's 13 seconds ahead to first place, and we saw just in the back a little bit of action there. Divem Galindo and Scott Johnson.
We see the first drive-through, the first track limits drive-through. I'm assuming that's the, because that just happened.
It just happened, surely. Yeah, you're right. Scott Johnson there with our first track limits. He must have collected 4. He used up 4 speed coupons and got himself a drive-through penalty.
I hate to commentators course, especially when we're so good at commentating cursing drivers, but I have a feeling we're gonna see some track limits violations here, because it is really difficult to keep it on track in the dry. And granted, you don't want to be touching a lot of these curbs because they are so slippery. However, sometimes you just can't avoid it, especially when you're battling. And yeah, it's really easy to pick up track limits here.
So as we see now, the man we're keeping an eye on, who is just hot lapping all by himself.
Drift.
He's pushing super hard. Look at this guy go. This is J.E. May. He's on track, 19th place. He has completed his pit stop with 33 minutes to go. He is the fastest driver on track. He has set a 220.007, almost into the 219s already, and just whipping that thing around the track.
Yeah, that drift through the S's there, halfway through the S's, was just mega there. Yeah, definitely making those tires work for it, but yeah, putting in some serious pace. He's just waiting for a lot of these, drivers who haven't pit to pit, and taking advantage of all that free track. He's got so much free track here, and so yeah, definitely.
So this will be kind of our first indication of where J.E. May is on track. So we see Shane Transu pitting from 8th place on track. So we'll keep an eye on where he comes out in relation to J.E. May behind. Which we also see Mark Torana pitting. Brett Swift, 6th place, still close behind. Heisner now putting a little pressure on him. This must be we keep talking about how loose and wild these Porsches are looking, but 3 in the top 6. This must be a good set of conditions for the Porsche.
I've heard the Porsche can be really good in the wet. I am so bad at driving it that I don't think I would be good at driving it in the wet, but I've heard, like I said, it could be really good in the wet. So it does have great aero, so that might be helping out quite a bit, though.
So like I mentioned, a little bit of a glimpse here of the progress J.E. May is making. Shane Transu is now out of the pits, well into Sector 1, running in 15th place, whereas we see Mr. J.E. May just coming out of Turn 1 there, so he has made good progress up the field, but a little bit still off of a top 10, despite being the fastest man on track.
I could see him doing it, though. I could see him getting into that top 10.
Absolutely. So, Tyler Martin now, P2, coming in for his mandatory pit stop. He'll put some new tires on. We saw Casey Rich had continued on for another lap. Same with Mr. Alexander Bermudez Garcia coming across the line here to start his 12th lap.
Heisner comes in the pit as well, and Galindo. I mean, we're just going to set up a bit of a reaction chain here for a lot of these drivers up front. I mean, this is a good time to pit if you think of, in terms of tire strategy and that sort of thing. So I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of these drivers pitting here in the next lap or two.
Yep, this is definitely the time for it as Scott Johnson comes across the line. He's staying out. Take a quick peek down the leaderboard here. Relatively close battle on track. This is Thibodeau is just up behind another Ferrari of Ian Gilchrist. This is a battle for 23rd and 2nd track. Dan Thibodeau, another driver who started with a qualifying ban penalty, but making what looks to be decent progress. His PB lap is a 221.6, so certainly faster than the drivers around him, putting a lot of pressure on Gilchrist ahead.
I love seeing those different lines there too, that just trying to throw off the car or find any grip that the driver in front is not finding. And yeah, it looks like he has a decent run. It looks like Ian already was kind of sneaking a defense. And a bit of a fake out there from Dan Thibodeau. Who's going to go a little bit later on the brakes. Nope, not too late on the brakes. Plays it a bit safe. Ooh, a little
touch
bump from behind.
Little touch.
Ooh, a little bump from behind.
Little touch.
up, and then he's gonna take that there from him. But
oh no, looking ahead, our second potential drive-through penalty of this race.
Yeah, he hasn't pit yet, so my guess is that is a track limits drive-through.
Yep. Shame for Emil Garcia. You know, he was having a good race. It wasn't the fastest, but he was making good progress. That will probably be the end of that, though, fortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame.
So looking ahead, Casey Rich has elected to stay on track. He's doing another one. Same with Alexander Bermudez Garcia. Brett Swift, though, in the pits from 3rd place. Scott Johnson, see as he comes around the second to last turn here, also diving into pits. Of our drivers who have pit, we're looking now with Mr. Tyler Martin running on track, 6th place, but we will see as Brett Swift and Scott Johnson take their mandatory stop. I would expect him to jump back up ahead.
I think he came into the pits from P2.
Right.
So unless, you know, the other drivers just had an otherworldly overcut. I can't see tire or you know, pitting strategy being quite as effective as, you know, some other tracks this season, just with the wet conditions and no dry line forming, because it looks like it's just still coming down pretty much the same amount.
There we see, so Scott Johnson was still stopped in the pits, so Tyler Martin made it past him. He's now running in 3rd place overall, but the 2 drivers ahead have yet to pit. Alexander Bermudez Garcia, who was running behind Tyler Martin in 3rd place. Lap time wise, T-Mart running a little bit stronger than Alexander Bermudez Garcia, so you would expect him to be able to retake that 2nd place after all pit stops are said and done. Jumping back on board with Mr. J.E. May, whizzing past, I believe that
going a little bit deep.
That is Scott Johnson, maybe just throwing off J.E. May as he came out of the pits there on the inside line. Both drivers keeping it on track, though. No harm, no foul. So J.E. May already up to 10th place on track as the fastest lap of the race, and a couple drivers ahead have yet to pit, so maybe we're thinking Dismukes at least ripe for the taking. So J.E. May making good progress up through the field.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got some pretty good pace here, and yeah, already in the top 10. I knew he was going to do it at some point, but yeah, that's looking great from him.
Was inevitable. So we're looking back down the field. We've got Dan Thibodeau running in P20 currently. Right up behind, that's Mert Merson ahead in the Porsche. Super close battle here as we come up to turn 1. Both drivers doing well, though, getting it stopped. No big drama there. Another close battle on track. We've got Divem Galindo, who is right up behind. This is Shane Transu in the other Latifi Racing School Ferrari. This is a battle on track for 6th and 7th place.
It's quite the showing from Shane Transu here, starting from so far, you know, from not qualifying and running in P6. It's looking great from him.
Excellent jog up through the field from Mr. Shane Transu. Do we remember, was he also one of our early pitters?
I don't think.
Curious when he took his new set of tires.
I don't remember. I'm terrible. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, and race control, you know, it gives us relative time in the pits, so nothing super crazy on the board. You know, for example, I could see that Mr. Kyle Miller had a 1-minute pit stop, so that was to repair some damage, as it looks like he's got a little bit more damage now that we mentioned it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, so I guess that answers that question, because I was wondering if he repaired that damage or if he picked up new damage. But yeah, that definitely it doesn't look like it's feeling good, and you got to be feeling aero damage like that in the wet. I imagine, I mean, I remember, again, I keep referencing the practice race yesterday, but somebody in the Mustang had, I think, 19 seconds of damage and said he was losing about a second a lap in the S's alone.
Oh, wow.
So I imagine, and granted, I feel like that's probably going to be where you lose most of your time, because that is very hard on your front tires. In the wet, makes that even more difficult. So I could see front arrow damage hurting a bit, but it's running in P14, which actually, that's not terrible, all things considered, and or that's now P13 actually, and so yeah, it's still still has good pace, despite that damage.
Yep, so we see this is J.E. May making his way through blue flag traffic up into 9th place now. Driver ahead of him hit his Mukes, still yet hit from 7th place in our other ZDR boys Porsche. So J.E. May looking good, potentially being promoted. 8th place now, making his way past one of beautiful Visual Sim Sports McLarens. As we're seeing some drama in the chat, we've got a check-in here
just gonna bring that
from
up.
Mr. Brett Swift, who was in one of our Sub-Zero Motorsports Porsches, the teammate of the man you see on screen here, Mr. Divem Galindo, coming to let us know that the change tires check mark was unchecked. So it just shot him straight back out of the pits, got to hit the pit limiter, or didn't realize that he hit it, got disqualified from the race for speeding in the pit lane.
Oh no, that's just terrible.
Oh, and he was having such a good race as well.
Yeah, that's something that really bothers me, how the wet races, at least in my experience, unchecks the tires by default, so I have to, I always go in and make sure, to change the tires, but that change tires is always unchecked for me.
Yeah, that's illogical, and because the rules, for example, because SRA in these races, the refueling isn't allowed, so that option is completely grayed out. I don't know why it wouldn't be the same thing with tires. If I'm gonna pit, I have to take tires. Just have it checked by default.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
that's
then you gotta
brutal.
make sure you have I've seen it. I haven't done it myself, but I've seen it where you accidentally put on dry tires instead of wet tires. Don't have that in the setup, which could be disastrous. So hopefully that doesn't catch anybody out.
Yep. So on track now, this is Roger Dismukes, who just lost 7th place to the driver we see ahead on track. That's Scott Johnson. Dismukes, though, still hasn't done his mandatory pit stop. So that's Scott Johnson.
I was going to say, my guess is he's not fighting, that too much. Actually has those hazards on? So he's just giving up all of those positions there.
Yeah, so that was Johnson, May, and Martirana there, all just kind of doing a parade past Dismukes, whose tires, after 40 minutes of driving, they must just be completely cooked.
I can't tell if that's I feel like that's a signal light on or something. I don't know. It's so hard to tell with the Porsche's lights are so not bright. They're not like the Mustang where they basically blind you. I feel like you have to really squint to see the lights. But
and he keeps it out on track, still not coming in to serve his pit. Hey, strategy for you. Jumping back ahead, closest battle on track. This is Divem Galindo, less than a half a second away from the driver ahead. That is Mr. Shane Transu, running in 4th place.
Wow, what a showing! I am still blown away, running in 4th place after starting from the back. That's fantastic.
But the I guess the question, it was unanswered, the question of when he pit, but if in fact he pit early, like maybe guess would have been, how is that going to work towards the end of the race? What condition will his tires be? And I know last season at Spa we had a driver, Jeremy Reeder, who was in some cases the fastest man on track, but did a pit stop super early, and by the end just had nothing left.
Yeah, it's difficult to
Oh,
say.
as we
I want
catch-
a huge dive from.
Wow, it's Daniel Martirana at the end. That's the hairpin leading on to the.
Oh, giving a little bit of a squeeze there.
So that's J.E. May in the red Ferrari. A little bit of argy-bargy. I was trying to look
Wasn't
to see
too happy with that dive.
Martirana at the end of the straight. J.E. May so brave around the outside.
Yeah, he is, especially in this in these wet conditions. He feels confident with his grip levels still, as they both go deep into the slippery stuff. Oh man.
Oh no, as ahead, Scott Johnson with a drive-through penalty, presumably for track limits.
I think
Is
didn't Scott
that
Johnson
another one?
already get a drive-through? Yeah, that might be a round 2. Like I said, it's easy to do around here. It's really easy to do around here. But yeah, that's a real shame. So yeah, some interesting argy-bargy moments there between these two drivers as it goes a bit deeper on the brakes. Martirana there.
Yeah, you love to see it. Martirana not afraid to stick his nose in on the inside of a turn, but J.E. May not afraid to hang it around the outside and say, nope, no thank you. Oh, that's way too fast. Wow.
Way too deep.
Okay, that was some amazing awareness there by Mr. J.E. May to see that coming, and it looks like he almost dodged him.
Yeah, that was some really quick thinking there to get out of the way. Definitely had his eye on the. Well, I mean, they had a lap of some pretty intense racing, so he probably was pretty aware of, had his eyes on that mirror, checking what he was doing. But yeah.
See, as Scott Johnson serves his drive-through penalty for track limits, he'll be coming back out on track in 12th place. Or 11th, depending on your source. There we go. Just behind Mr. Kyle Miller. Doing well, making a bit of a recovery. Back up into 11th place in his once repaired but twice damaged GRR OBDA Mustang. Looking ahead, this is our driver currently in.
Was that Transu getting past AVG there?
Going right. ABG, something must have happened. I'm gonna a little bit nap. That wasn't enough.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
he's there.
He was running pretty clear ahead in 3rd place, dropped back and lost a position. Transu.
Maybe going deeper into the hairpin or something like that, or maybe just Shane Transu getting a good run on him. Which, speaking of good run, it looks like Galindo here. Maybe he looked like he was pretty close, but my guess is he's just sneaking. He's just letting him know, he's there.
Garcia still running just fine up into 4th place. Doesn't look like he's too damaged. Maybe just had a little bit of a moment where he got too deep on the brakes. We gotta do our regularly scheduled check-in. Casey Rich still walking away. The gap has come down a little bit. Last I looked, it was 14 seconds. It's now only 11 to Mr. T-Mart, currently rocking 2nd place. His teammate Shane Transu now up onto the podium positions after starting at the back of the grid after a qualifying ban penalty.
Yeah, that's amazing there. We probably don't want to spend too much time looking at it, talking about it. But yeah, as we have this battle, which looks like it's heating up a bit. It's hard to get, in the Porsche, get a run on the BMW in the straight. The BMW has got to be pretty strong on the straight here. But
yeah, you're right. It just looks like the BMW is just walking away. That's incredible.
yeah. Yeah, well, and the BMW isn't too hard to get power down as long as you're not dealing too much with turbo lag. So as long as you're in the right RPM range, it's not too bad to get the power down. But so it can be pretty strong out of those hairpins. But at the same time, Porsche's kind of king at that low speed stuff.
Pellerin didn't look like anybody else was involved. Just a little spin by himself, getting it back going. No more there. Looking ahead, we've got Scott Johnson, who we saw had served that drive-through penalty, back on track in 12th and trying to make something happen on the driver ahead, Kyle Miller. You would expect Johnson might be a little bit faster at this point in the race, so we'll keep an eye on him to see if he can make some moves done on the drivers ahead. Some further battles. This is Andrew Duangbong Leo, who is currently running second place of our silver drivers. That's Daniel Martirana ahead. But Martirana,
I think that's Leung past Duangbong Leo there.
Oh, you're 100% correct. My board on the left hadn't updated yet. Oh, somehow I missed it, but you spotted it. Duangbong Leo losing that position to Alan Leung, and this is an important battle for our Silver Division Championship.
Yeah. Because these two are pretty close in their championship. I guess that this one, Alan Leung has a bit of a lead over Duangbong Leo. Man, I am so bad at pronouncing names, so I'm sorry to everybody. But
yeah, no, I mean, we might as well go through it. So Kyle Miller, currently running in 11th, being pressured by Scott Johnson. He's our top silver driver coming into this race with a 7-point lead over Alan Leung, who's up in 9th. So Leung looking to maybe take the advantage in our overall silver championship after this race.
Yeah, that's going into the last round. So this is really close between these silver drivers. I mean, the silver championship is always a bit closer, typically at least, than the gold championship. Just because points get a little bit closer, together in the middle of the field. But yeah, but this is very close, between those two.
Yeah, which makes this battle here for 11th and 12th all the more important. Kyle Miller hoping that he could get some kind of gentleman's agreement with Scott Johnson going.
Yeah.
He needs this position. He needs those points.
It looks like almost they're both, because it looks like Scott Johnson has some damage there too. So it looks like they're both dealing with maybe some front-end damage there.
And we've Galindo. We're tight up behind the BMW of Alexander Bermudez Garcia, coming here through turn 1 into the S's, a gap of only 4/10. Hoping to put a little bit of pressure, maybe force a mistake out of ABG here. Great racing, super tight. Sometimes I don't know how these guys do it. I'm not very good at following closely, but like this.
Yeah, well, especially in the rain, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely tricky. Gets a little bit. I mean, Galindo has been sliding like all day today, so I wonder how those tires are feeling brave over the inside curb there.
Is he peeking the inside? Is he?
Oh my goodness!
Careful, careful! Wow!
Wow!
Oh no, Galindo!
A bit of Porsche things there at the hairpin. He was feeling awfully brave there, but I can't imagine the grip's great there.
I mean, you could tell he wasn't really going for the move. It definitely looked like a fake, but on that compromised super inside line, just unable to get the traction down and loops it by himself.
Yeah. Doesn't lose a position crucially though. So
Yep.
you know, he loses the attack a bit. But
Yep, no,
yeah,
that's a
the
good point.
position
So, because that driver
kept.
you see who just gave it back, that was a blue flag driver. So Galindo still in 5th place. No threat behind from Heisner, who's 7 seconds back. So all that Galindo lost there was a little bit of time to the driver ahead, Alexander Bermudez Garcia, who is able to breathe a little bit more easily with 9 minutes left in this race. Looking down,
As this
we got,
battle looks, still
it's just
still,
continuing on. Nothing too much has changed. Coming down the main straight, 6/10 gap ahead. The Ferrari's just not getting it done in a straight line. Maybe some of that aero damage coming up to bite him. And ahead, this is Daniel Beckstead, who blue flagged to the driver ahead. That's Alexander Bermudez Garcia. But the other driver you see there in the other Visual Sim Sports McLaren, that's Mr. A. Lombardo. This is a very tight battle for 21st and 22nd, as we see at the bottom of our screen there. Another drive-through penalty. That's Brad Charland down in 26th.
It's got to be for track limits again.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a cruel thing, this track limits.
Bardo here. So again, that driver ahead on track, Alexander Bermudez Garcia, currently running 4th place in this race, but at least through Sector 1 there, it looked like Mr. Lombardo was doing a pretty good job keeping up with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta wonder what happened early in the race, but Lombardo with some great pace here at the end. And ahead, the battle continues. Sector 1, Scott Johnson right behind Kyle Miller still. But yeah, you can see that hood fluttering in the wind there. Lots of damage, probably not super efficient in a straight line anymore, and still unable to get this move done.
Yeah. As Kyle Miller opts for the wide double apex there.
Absolutely viable, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I think especially in the Mustang, that's the strong thing to do if you're defending a position, which it's close. I feel like it hasn't been quite this close as they kind of glit out on the slippery stuff. Yeah. So this is going to give a pretty good run for Scott Johnson here.
Right up behind. This is
But
well
yeah,
within
it's looking,
slipstream range, but
the Mustang looks like it's almost pulling.
it is. How is he's so deep into the slipstream, but maybe because of aero damage, maybe because of that American muscle, the Ferrari just can't make an impact.
It's the American flag livery.
There we go. I'm glad we
The
took the time
special-
to get that
Yeah,
installed for this race.
Yeah, the special one-off livery here for the Circuit of the Americas.
That's a good-looking car for sure. Back, the Beckstead-Lombardo battle still continues. A half second between those two, but there aren't any other close battles on track. Got Galindo here, still 2.5 seconds behind Bermudez Garcia, who 4 seconds behind man of the hour, Shane Transu, who has set the purple lap of the race, a 2:19.347, the only driver who has put it in the 2:19 range, is just crushing this lap. I mean,
Yeah.
that answers my question about tires. He just set the fastest lap of the race with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's obviously has insane pace. So what is J.E. May doing? I remember he pit extremely early on. So his tires have got to be rough because I want to say he pit only like lap 2 or 3 or something like that.
Yep, so it says, so his best lap was a 2:20.0. His last lap was a 2:21.485. So you're absolutely onto something there. His
Those tires have
His tires are
Gotta
going.
be. So Jay May, though, also with the pit lane, I mean, he had a pit lane start, rather than a grid start because, he, and not only that, I think he was a late pit lane start. I wonder what happened because I remember he qualified P4. He should have been, up high there, but he started way behind, even behind the pit lane starters. So, I wonder what happened there.
Yep, so the white line strikes again. This is Mr. Merson with a drive-through penalty. I actually need to make a correction. We have 2 drivers who have made their way down into the 219s. This is our race leader, Casey Rich, with a 14-second gap to Mr. T-Mart behind his PB lap. 219.787. Another improvement, though. Shane Transu going even faster with a 219.155. He, unfortunately,
unstoppable.
Yeah, but he's just too far back to possibly think about taking second place away from his teammate. He's got 14 seconds ahead to Tyler Martin.
I mean, this is huge for their team championship, though. And I mean, a podium is good anytime, but a podium from what was it, P28 on the start? that's amazing. So I mean, I'm just taken aback. I mean, we know Shane Transu and his teammate Tyler Martin, they're fast drivers. So they're obviously have been able to, especially with Shane Transu, really show that today.
Yep, absolutely. Pace has never been their problem. It's always been the luck. They did enter this race in the team standings in 5th place in the team championship, 129 points back, which, as far as the teams go, that's not impossible to overcome in 2 races.
That's what I'm saying, especially with the P2, P3 finish, because what P2 is
90
100 points, or is it 90?
Or I'm sorry, no, you're right. So it's 110 for first, 100 for second, and 90 or 92 for third place.
92, I think, for third.
Yep.
So that's a 192 point gain here. And, when you're looking at, a lot of the competitors in front, they don't quite have those 2 drivers up there. So, I mean, P2, P3, that's big. This is big for them.
Yeah, so if anything, tragedy befalling some of the teams ahead of them. So, Sean Leitch, J.E. May, not great luck in this race. Same thing, Brett Swift, he was in the 3rd place Sub-Zero Motorsport team. So a lot happening here they renamed themselves, which actually I think me and you recommended. They started the season as the Latifi Racing School team. After a string of bad luck, they've changed their name. They're now the Chuck Leclerc Racing Team in the Ferrari 296. You love to see it.
Which is pretty ironic because, I mean, in a way, I this might be my slight Charles Leclerc fan here. But being an unlucky racer, maybe that's the trying to change around their luck a little bit. They're racing for Ferrari too, right?
No, he's closing now.
But they've had some good, they've been able to put in. I remember last race out at the Nordschleife, they had decent, or at least Tyler Martin, if I remember correctly, had decent pace there, and then also at Donington as well. So they've been able to kind of turn it around a bit. But yeah, this P2, P3, and it looks like this is the final lap, right?
So if we go on board,
it's going to be close, but not quite yet. We'll do one more lap. Yeah.
So Casey Rich coming around the last turn here. He's got time. He could wait for the 9 seconds it would take for the clock to wind down.
All right, man. The leader is on the final lap.
Not gonna do it.
Did he let off?
No. That was the line is a little bit further back there for that was the start line rather than the finish line. But
Okay,
Yeah,
so one more race. One more lap in this race.
It was about four seconds to go, I think.
I mean, come on, you've got a 19-second gap behind. He apparently just loves driving this track. He's having a great time.
Just feeling good. Hey, I mean, how could you not be when you've got that gap? I mean, he's had a very dominant performance here, and where he's just basically been able to just chill and focus on his pace. Hadn't had to really worry about any battling or any of that nonsense, and just be able to cruise to victory in that.
And still kicking it out there up and over the crest. This guy is just having the drive of his life.
Oh yeah, you gotta have some fun, right? That Aston Martin does like its power rotation, so.
Right, and you know, in a car like you said, the Aston Martin that hasn't featured at all in this championship, it's kind of been the Porsche and Ferrari show all season long.
Yeah, and
you love to see the Aston.
I have a soft spot for the Aston. I raced it last season.
Nice.
And I do quite like the car, so you know I'm liking seeing it at the front here.
Yep. So just
there's not very many. I mean, there's only the 2 Aston Martins, you know, from this team in the entire grid, isn't there?
You are correct. Looking at the standings, there are only 2 on the whole grid. This Madhouse Racing Spectre team, Alan Leung, KC Rich, the only Astons in Division 5.
Yeah, and I remember, you know, last season, me and my teammate were the only, which might, yeah, we were the only Astons in our division as well. So it doesn't seem like it's a very popular choice, but I like it.
No, depending on who you ask, maybe it's just the slower BMW.
Yeah, that's fair. The ridiculously long first gear.
So as we see now, Casey Rich coming around the final corner, taking the checkered flag.
The leader has
Dominant performance out of him. You love to see it, Mr. Casey Rich. Looking back down the order, Divim Galindo, after that unfortunate spin, has regained a whole chunk of time. Now within a second of the driver ahead, Alexander Bermudez Garcia, coming into the final handful of corners. Surely he won't be able to make any sort of overtake, as now second to last left-hand turn. Hopefully everybody get its stops here for this final left-hander. Yep. No.
Looking good. Yeah.
Yep,
There's
everybody clean.
nowhere
There
to
we
pass
go.
without something big happening. There's nothing you could do there. As he takes fastest lap there at the very last lap.
Oh, stealing that point
An
away from Shane
18.5.
Transu. What a lap. That is massive.
Yeah.
18.5? What the lord?
Yeah, that is fantastic pace there at the end.
Okay, so first place, KC Rich. Second and third, you love to see it. Chuck Leclerc Racing. We got T. Martin, Shane Transu doing some celebratory donuts off of the backside of turn 1 here. We had Alexander Bermudez Garcia joining them, finishing 4th place. So another strong performance out of him. Should be maintaining his lead in the championship. We got Galindo, we got Heisner, we've got May, who, you know, some people have left the server, so maybe he was 6th. I believe he finished 7th place in this race. Yeah, beautiful stuff out of all of our participants. Looking now towards the B5 Race Chat channel, Mr. KC Rich is in there. I wonder if we could pull him up for a quick interview.
It's not letting me grab him, unfortunately.
Uh-oh, did we steal your permissions away from you? I've got him. Here he comes.
All right.
Mr. KC Rich, welcome to the commentator's booth.
Oh, thanks. The winner's circle?
The winner's circle. We got to talk to you about just front-to-back domination, it felt like, from our point of view. How did it feel from you on track?
I really enjoy like wet races and rain races. Coda, I guess I'm not too great at, but I'm just happy with, you know, the win. That's my first SRA win, so just trying to keep the car on track was the whole race, I guess.
Not too great at with a 19-second lead over P2. That was, I mean, from my point of view, that was a super dominant performance. I mean, look, every time we checked up on you, you're just looking cool, calm, and composed. I mean, the Aston Martin, I feel like it does pretty good in the rain. I mean, I might be a little biased, but I don't know how. So did it feel just, cool in the whole time?
Yeah, I mean, it felt pretty manageable. The lap right before I pit, I could definitely feel that the tires were wearing, and as soon as I got the new tires on, it felt like a brand new car, and very manageable. Didn't have any problems the whole race. Definitely could correct where I needed to. Felt very confident in it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, it looked like you had some really good pace towards the end there. Was that all just pace, or was the track finally starting to get a bit faster?
Definitely felt like the track was getting a little bit quicker there at the end. I was surprised to take the quickest lap, the second to last lap there. But yeah, it just felt a lot more slick than in the practice races, I guess, or the practice servers.
Yeah, it looked pretty wet out there for you guys, but yeah, like great job keeping it calm and cool there though.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a lot of fun. Don't know what really happened too much behind me, but I wasn't trying to worry about it. But yep, just trying to keep the car on track.
Well, hey, yeah, what happens behind you stays behind you. So.
Exactly. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, huge congrats, and yeah, we'll again. I guess I can't move. I don't know what happened.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for you guys for commentating. It makes the races a lot more fun, knowing that people are talking about it and watching it, and people are streaming. It's a great time.
For sure. Congratulations. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and good luck next week, round 8.
Oh, thanks. Good luck to you guys as well.
Awesome. All right, get out of here. Okay, so that was our race winner, KC Rich. I'm looking at the race chat. I'm not seeing either of our Chuck Leclerc guys.
Oh, man, I was hoping we could talk to him.
Normally, ABG doesn't join either. Neither of us speak Spanish, so that probably wouldn't go too well anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be terrible for me.
So I guess we'll call it there. Thank you to everybody out in YouTube land joining us, either watching this live or on the VOD. Be sure to join us next week. The final race of the season, round 8, we're going to be coming at you live, same bat time, same bat channel from Watkins Glen, which, man, I am super stoked about. I mean, Donovan, I feel like this season our SRA admins have just been serving us banger after banger. I love this calendar. I love all these tracks.
Oh yeah, they totally blessed us. I mean, it's funny because I went into this season being like, oh, it's such a banger list, except Coda. We could forget about Coda. But now I have a slightly different opinion.
Yeah, no,
of Coda. I've matured since the start of season 11.
Yeah, it turned out to be another winner. Yeah, we just can't miss.
They certainly blessed us this season with this track list.
So, all right. So that's it for me. We are signing out here from the booth. Farewell, everybody, and see you all next week.